morning, bonjour. This is just a quick video tutorial on how to use the VTI paradigms. So I'm going to share screen, we'll walk through it, and then I will give some examples. All right. So these are the VTI paradigms. And just like in the VAI ones, excuse me, what you would do first is you would want to know what you want to say. And you want to know who you are going to be talking about. So in this one, VTI paradigms, they are root form is a command to one person. So here, the example verb, gish kijan, means cut it. So like if you have scissors, if you just say gish kijan to someone, then you're telling them to cut it. And it's like you're talking to gin, to you singular, because you're saying like, cut it, you. Like gish kijan, gin, go ahead and cut it, So anyway, you want to know your verb and you want to know who you want to talk about. Now, the first thing you want to know with your verb is what does it end with? So you're looking at the top here. Does my verb end with an AN ending, or does it end with a VTI2, which is an OON ending, or a VTI3, which is an IN ending? So pretty simple. There's only 3 options there. And then let's see here. So let's assume that you've got a verb, a VTI verb that ends with AN, and you want to talk about ginawa, doing it. Ginawa, so you know you're talking to yous or y'all. So you would scroll all the way down to here and then go across. And your verb is the one that's in black. Now, you'll notice here, the verb originally was gish kijan with 1 A, but there the A's are bolded. And that's to demonstrate that in the positive form, when it is happening, that AN ending expands to AAN. Here, you can look up here at the singular gene. It goes from a single A in gish kijan over to on double A, and you add the red to the beginning to indicate a single person. And this describes what they're doing. Gish kijan, you are cutting it. Now let's go back to our y'all example. You would take your verb and you plug it in between the person here. You're going to make sure that your double A, or that your single A expands to double A, and then you add awa. So you all are cutting it. Gigish kijanawa. Now, in this case, everybody, y'all, they're cutting a singular item. So let's say they might all have scissors and be working on a large poster. That's when you would use gigish kijanawa. You all are cutting it. But if the entire class or all of Ginawa are individually cutting their own items, so assuming that it's like you all are cutting those or them, you now have plural objects. And when you have plural objects, you have to add this additional N to indicate that there's more than one thing that's being cut. So in that case, so you're describing Ginawa cutting all of these things. Let's put the word Mazne Gonson. So Mazin Gons, a piece of paper. I add the plural suffix un to make it more than one piece of paper. So the papers. Ge, gish, kijan, gish, oh, sorry, gish, kijan, but it expands from un to on. And we add our plural person suffix, a, wa. Now our ge here works together. That's the single U, and then the awa, that tail makes it more than one U, y'all. But since we're talking about more than one object, we need to add our plural marker. Mizne kikish, kijan, awan. So you've got plural agreement there. That's what we call it. Now, most of these verbs will have plural agreement, but pay attention over here to the notes section. So you'll see here, there is no plural object form. So when you're talking about these guys, it doesn't matter if they're cutting an it or if they're cutting those or multiple items. There is nothing you do to indicate how many items are being cut. That will be indicated by the items themselves. So for example, we're talking about we, not you, are cutting papers, more than one paper. Now we're still going to use mazina igansan papers, plural, and then we add our person and expand the A, and you get nin gish kijamin. Nin. Then we've got our verb gish kijan. But again, it's not on, it's on. But since we're adding min to the end, because the nin, the n plus the min makes it us, but not you, we can't have an n next to the m, so that just falls off. So we get mazne gasan, gish kijam, and we, not you, are cutting papers, plural. There is no plural agreement on this form. So you're going to see some valuable notes over here. And that's how that works. You always plug the verb in. Down here, we have the form of neen that goes before these letters. There's forms of neen that go before certain letters. Those are in the earlier units, I think in our VAI videos. Here we have another note, the ending an lengthens to aan in positive form, as I mentioned. The additional an or n in parentheses at the end of the verbs indicates a plural object. Like Ningish kishan, I am cutting it. Ningish kishan none, I am cutting them. Yeah. Okay, so similar idea with Gawin statements. This time we remember that Gawin is always going to come in front if our sentence is in A form. There are lessons on A and B form, so while it's great that you are using these paradigms and you're following this tutorial, there is a lot that goes into this that it's really imperative that you follow along with the videos that I have posted for learning about this. Otherwise, this is going to sound like a whole lot of information. But if you go in order with things, then it's really not that overwhelming, and you'll find that the patterns repeat themselves and are reliable. So that aside, let's say you're talking about he or she. Now in VAIs, he or she's already built into the word, so you don't need to do anything for wean. Wean is the root form, but these are VTIs and no person is built into the word. The word is a command to a person and that person is implied. Cut it, but there's no he, she, you, her, him, me in that verb. So let's say you want to say she is not cutting it. She's not doing her work. She's not cutting the paper. So you're going to go down to he or she, which is ween. You have to have your gawin first. We know our verb is gish kijan. Oh, and we know we're talking about he or she. So the he or she is indicated by this O on the front. Gawin o gish kijan z. Now, I'm gonna add this here because in VTIs, even though a lot of times in the dialect in your area, that N is so nasalized that it almost isn't heard at all. I'm gonna make it really tiny like that because you might hear it like Ogish Gizanzin, Ogish Gizanzin. You kind of hear it, but a lot of times you'll also hear it as Gawin Ogish Gizanzi. It's like you want to try and trap that N sound up in the top of your nose because and the reason I'm putting it in there, the reason it's important in this one is because we have a plural marker. If you're talking about more than one thing, we couldn't very well say gawin o gish kishan zi un. That doesn't come out right. You need another consonant in there. So if he or she is not cutting the papers, plural, you need gawin o gish kishan zin un. Gawin o gish kishan zin un. Um, All right, I hope that wasn't confusing. Let's see here. Um, yeah, I don't know. I thought I added all of these in here. I know that we talk about it in the VTI video lesson. Now over here, remember that Z works together with the Gawin to make the action not happen. And so that's why this word is so much longer. The other thing is that negation, that Z wants to be buddy here, right next to the verb. And so it sneaks in and bumps the plural person to the end, the plural person indicated here by min. Um, let's see. Gawin gish and Zeman. We, not you, are not cutting it. And again, in this form, there's no plural marker. So on and so forth. Now our B form, let's go down here. We're going to use an un ending. B form is dependent on something else to make it make sense. So our word unitun, it's an un ending, so you would know that you'd have to come down to these paradigms. Let's say when I leave it alone, he or she is happy. So when I leave it alone, he's happy. I would, when you know, sorry, when I leave it alone, that is not a complete sentence. That's why it's in B form. If it's not a complete sentence on its own, then it needs to be in B form as opposed to A form, which is a complete sentence, however simple, all on its own. So when I leave it alone, unit two, yan. Now that N on the end up here, that un, the N fell off, and then we tack on yan, and yan is the I or me, mean. So if you're wanting to say that, when I leave it alone or when I quit it, leave it alone, quit bothering it technically, because there's an object that you're technically referring to that needs to have been mentioned fairly recently or in the same sentence. That's why you would use VTI. When I leave it alone, Musnayagan, that book, for example, he's happy. Min Wyndham. Let's see. Why is this? Interesting. Okay. And yep, these ones all have things that go on to the end. So you take your verb, you put it in for the persons that you want to talk about, you drop the N off the end, and you add your red letters for the persons that you're talking about. And there you have it. That is, yeah, that's how to use these VTI paradigms. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope this helps make things a little bit easier to understand. Miigwech for listening, and we'll see you again next time.